Oh, Benfica, still not looking good. It was a disappointing weekend for me, everybody. Not only in the football world, but in the real world as well. What the hell, Uber Eats? That's 2 orders in a row that have been missing items. Next time I use this fraudulent app, I'm not letting the driver leave until I go through every single bag and ensure that every single aspect of my order is there. It's enough now. Anyways, welcome to the weekend recap, where we go over the top 4 apps for ordering food from the convenience of your home and then throw in a bonus app as well that we rage about. This week, no sponsor. Definitely not sponsored by Uber Eats, an app for fools like me that put too much trust in other humans. This is a good start to the episode. And I'm sick on top of all of this. Come on, bro. I'm Adrian, by the way. Hello. To make up for last week, we'll cover a couple of bonus leagues this week. First, MLS. The MLS conference finals are all set. Remember how Zlatan was talking a lot of shit about Carlos Vela? I mean, how could you forget? He's been talking shit almost all season, as Zlatan is wont to do. Well, those two met again for a special playoff edition of El Tráfico, and what a match it was. LAFC with the 2-0 lead thanks to Vela's brace, but Zlatan sets up Pavon to make it 2-1 going into the half. The Galaxy's momentum continues in the second, pegging it back to 2-2, but their defending went out the window. And that's not to say that LAFC's defending was much better. Goals traded back and forth. LAFC killing the Galaxy on the counter. 5-3 final. LAFC will face Seattle in the Western final. On the other side of the continent, following Toronto's 2-1 win over NYCFC, they were eagerly watching Union travel away to Atlanta United. Very close match there in Atlanta, as Philly dominated at times and came very close to equalizing in the first half after Julian Gressel gave Atlanta the lead. But in the second half, the most casual of players, Joseph Martinez, ripped the roof of the goal off to make it 2-0. Atlanta versus Toronto in the Eastern final. The Western final is on Tuesday. The Eastern one is on Wednesday. Okay? A little MLS for you. Eredivisie. This weekend we had De Klassieker between Ajax and Feyenoord, and it wasn't even close, man. A drubbing for Feyenoord, who are having a horrid start to their season. From 11 matches, they have just 14 points. Just 4 points gained in their last 5 matches. So, yes, of course they lost to Ajax 4-0, as Ajax's near-perfect record stretches to 9 wins and 2 draws. All 4 goals scored in the first 40 minutes, and Ajax was able to coast through the second half, never really being troubled by Feyenoord. They didn't even get a shot on target in the entirety of the match from 4 attempts. It was that kind of day for them. Speaking of drubbings, we also had the other 2 top teams meeting, in AZ Alkmaar going away to Eindhoven to take on PSV. And while Alkmaar were already looking the better team, once PSV's Ryan Thomas got himself sent off in the 22nd minute, game over. AZ dominated, made it 2-0 before the half was up, 4-0 by the end of this one, a humbling 4-0 loss at home for PSV, and AZ hop over them into second place. And so, with Vitesse losing, the Eredivisie table is all a bit mad in the top 4. 3 teams on 23 points behind Ajax, AZ, PSV, and Vitesse, while Utrecht are looking good with 20 points after their win away to Sparta Rotterdam. Okay, we got through that without sneezing. Let's see if we can keep this good momentum going after the first 15 minutes of this game. Carry on and get to the second half without sneezing too much. Guys, let's start with our regular programming with some Bundesliga action. Speaking of which, there were a couple of massive matchups this weekend. The biggest, of course, being the Revier Derby, which I did a Roots of the Rivalry video on. Very fun to learn some early history of Borussia Dortmund and FC Schalke. I learned a lot in making that video, and maybe you would too, if you would watch it. But I didn't find that the Revier Derby to be that fun in comparison to making the video. That was way more fun. It lacked in quality in the final third, that's for sure. It was a match of 2 halves also. Schalke the better team in the first half. Actually, Schalke, I thought that they were better for most of this match. Dortmund only woke up in the last 20 or so minutes when it was too late. 0-0 in this one. Schalke looking much better early this season under David Wagner than they were last season, of course. So, while those two played out a board draw, Bayern München hosted one of the new teams to the Bundesliga, FC Union Berlin. And while Bayern dominated in the stats department, shots, possession, etc. You know what stats are, I don't need to read them off for you. This is much closer than you would have thought. Big shout out to Raf Geklitzen, in goal for Union. I don't know how to say that name. Who put in a man of the match performance despite the loss. Of course, Lewandowski scored. Before that, Pavard scored his second in his last 7 appearances in the Bundesliga. I think I read a stat that it took him 65 matches to score his first 2 Bundesliga goals, and he scored 2 in his last 7. Union had a chance to make it 2-1 in the 58th, but Neuer made the save from the penalty. They did, however, convert a penalty in the 86th minute. 2 on the final. All of you newly anointed fans of Canadian football will be happy to hear that Alphonso Davies was looking good in the left-back position, which is quite clearly his second best position. But he had a strong showing. I just want to see this guy attacking, though. Speaking of strong showings, Freiburg continue their incredible start to the season with a win at home against Leipzig. Weird match, to be honest, as Freiburg had 2 injuries in the first half to deal with, forcing them to use 2 subs, and then a 3rd injury in the second half. So not the easiest circumstances for them, especially with a team like Leipzig coming to town, but they managed to win. Late in the match, they made it 2-0, but Leipzig finally made a breakthrough in the 92nd. 2-1 final for Freiburg. The top team in the Bundesliga officially is Borussia Mönchengladbach, and my oh my, I think I might have to do a video on these guys, or at least a video on Marco Rose, because I am quickly becoming a big fan of his. I loved what he did with Salzburg in the Europa League a couple of seasons ago, let alone what he was doing domestically, of course. And so it's great to see him have such a solid start to managing Mönchengladbach. And this weekend, as I alluded to, they smacked Eintracht Frankfurt 4-2 to move to the top of the table, 1 point ahead of Bayern Munich. Freiburg and Wolfsburg are also in the top 4. Dortmund aren't too far off, though. More great matchups next week to look forward to. Frankfurt traveling away to Bayern Munich, Mönchengladbach away to Leverkusen, and Dortmund are hosting Wolfsburg, the still unbeaten Wolfsburg. La Liga. This will be relatively quick thanks to, as you know, the biggest match of the weekend. El Clasico was postponed until December 18th. God, come on, you can do this, Adrian. So, Villarreal, who struggled a bit last season, are having a much better go of things, highlighted from this weekend, where they got their 2nd consecutive win to make it 3 wins from 5 for them and move them up to 6th in the table. They defeated Alaves 4-1, a brace from Maccabi, and 1 apiece from Moreno and Ontiveros. Gerard Moreno is still tied in the top scorer race with his 7th of the season. He's tied with Laurent Moron, and Moron's team, Real Betis, had another rough match. Remember last week when I said their coach Ruby is on the chopping block? They went over to Granada's yard and lost once again. They're truly in foul form, winless in 4 matches, and have officially dropped into the relegation zone. Not at all how their fans would have envisioned the season going. They have the worst defense in the league, having conceded 20 goals already. Real Sociedad are going to win the league, baby. You heard it here first. 3 wins from 5 matches, just like Villarreal. That's league-winning form, son. They left it late, but they got the victory away to Celta Vigo thanks to their young charges, Martin Odegaard and Alexander Isak. Sevilla hosted Getafe. Getafe are the tricky, hard-to-read team of this league, and they got rolled in Sevilla. Not on the score sheet, where it was kept to a respectable 2-0, but Sevilla weren't really strained in this one, especially in the second half, where Chicharito scored the eventual winner, and Ocampos added an insurance goal 10 minutes later. Atletico Madrid hosted their brothers Athletic Bilbao. Oh, you don't know about the early shared history of those 2 teams? Huh. If only there was a YouTube creator who talked about that. Guess what? Again, Atletico Madrid don't look overly convincing, but at least they got the win on this occasion instead of what would have been their 4th draw in a row, I believe. Goals from Saul and Morata, 2-0 win. Atletico still there or thereabouts near the top of the table. Granada, they're top currently, though of course Real Madrid and Barcelona have a match in hand, both of which could pass them. Sevilla quietly keeping pace with the rest of the boys at the top. The table's looking nice so far. I like how tight it is this year. After 10 matches, it's always going to be tight then. The table is not looking very nice for AC Milan over in Italy, however, as they went to Rome to take on Roma and their Bosnian Zorro. Man, it just continues to be shit for Milan fans this season. I really do feel for them. Terrible under Giampaolo, still not great under Pioli, and they lose yet again. Mind you, they only lost 2-1, but this team just simply cannot score goals. They don't generate enough good chances, and when they do, the finishing just isn't there. Plus, I'm not convinced that they even have a midfield. Biglia, Kessié, and Paqueta all went clear out there, like Evian. We'll skip a nod there for you. The big winners after this weekend, after getting slapped 5-1 by City midweek, Atalanta let out all of their frustrations on poor Udinese. Getting yourself sent off in the 32nd minute is never a very helpful contribution to your team's efforts, as the man from Udinese did, but damn, Muriel and Atalanta weren't willing to go easy. 7-1, hat-trick for Muriel, a brace for Ilicic, and one apiece for Pasalic and Traore. RIP Udinese. Juventus was held to a 1-1 draw against Lecce, a match where they opted to rest Ronaldo. Of course, they dominated the match, but it was a match that lacked in quality from both teams, to be honest, at least in the attack. Juve had at least 4 or 5 massive opportunities to score, and yet they still all went begging. Dybala put Juve ahead from the penalty spot, but then just 6 minutes later, Marco Mancuso leveled from the penalty spot for Lecce. 1-1 the final. Napoli was held also to a 1-1 with Spal, Torino, and Cagliari matched that score and result, and undoubtedly the most intriguing matchup of the weekend was Fiorentina versus Lazio, in which the visitors, Lazio, brought Fiorentina's 6-match unbeaten run to an end at the Artemio Franchi. Who was at the center of it? That's right, Immobile, with an assist and the eventual winner. Surprised? No. The Italian table is as follows. Lazio cracked the top 6, while Inter's 2-2 draw at home against Parma means they failed to capitalize on Juve's drop points. Same at the top. Atalanta is catching up to the top 2 after they got that win, and Roma is in 5th. Premier League, the biggest matchup of the weekend, Tottenham versus Liverpool, started with an absolute bang, with a fortunate deflection falling to Kane after smacking off of the post, and he headed into the goal after just 47 seconds. But from there, Tottenham did very little in this match, as Liverpool buzzed around them and always felt like they were just a moment away from an equalizer. But they were made to wait until the second half for that, with Henderson volleying past Gazzaniga, then later a clumsy tackle from Aurier gave Salah the opportunity to convert from the spot. He made no mistake. 2-1 Liverpool. Son Heung-min left wondering what could have been if he hadn't rounded Alisson and fired off the crossbar. Exact same thing Hazard did against Galatasaray, really. Liverpool deserved winners on the balance of the match, but it was a labor for them. Tottenham's horrid record at Anfield continues, but at least it was just a 2-1 loss at this time. God, I almost sneezed there, guys. Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. Well, plenty of drama in this one for Arsenal. So they take a 2-0 lead in the first 9 minutes. Things are looking great for them. People are gassing up Guendouzi again, etc., etc. Then Crystal Palace pulls one back from the penalty spot in the 32nd minute. Then the downfall continues, as in the second half, Xhaka was quite suspect for Ayu's equalizer. Partially at fault, sure, but this was far from his worst performance, and once he was subbed off, he wasn't having it. The boos rang around the Emirates, pretty weak from some of the Arsenal fans to boo their own. Also in turn, as the captain, Xhaka isn't supposed to be egging them on with his hand cupped to his ear, returning insults in their direction, etc. Then he really hit Emery with the handshake psych, took off his kit, and stormed down the tunnel. Wow! AFTV is back on the rise, baby. All is not well there. Discontent from the players like Xhaka and Ozil. Emery has been unable to instill any sort of identity in Arsenal's play style. Like, could you tell me Arsenal style? I didn't think so. Their style is calling for the heads of their managers, I guess. I'm joking, of course. But seriously, there's something way, way, way off at Arsenal. Bad vibes over there. Need to align their chakras like that. Uber Eats driver, man. What the hell? Where was my missing item? Man United can suddenly score goals from open play. Here's looking at you, Rashford. Big up yourself for turning what was once a problem area for you from the striker position. You know, at one time I think he was at like 1 goal from open play in 17 or 18 matches while playing as the striker. Now he's scoring goals from there. But from the Daniel James and Rashford connection, it bore fruit once again against Norwich. But even before that, McTominay smacked one past Tim Krul. Krul, by the way, was also insane in this match. Later, Martial made it 3 for United, but it could have been 5 or more for them, as Krul saved 2 penalties in the first half. 3-1 the final. Good win for United, winning a match away that they should be winning. You haven't always been able to say that about this team under Ole since he got the full-time position. Kobe. Speaking of winning away, Leicester... They completely embarrassed Southampton. Send Southampton to the championship after that 9-0 loss at home. If you lose 9-0 at home, you should automatically get relegated, man. I don't care. That's shocking. Huge performance from Leicester, though, of course. We have to give them credit for it. It would be unfair to take away from their win. Hat-tricks for Ayoze Perez and Jamie Vardy. Chilwell, Tielemans, and Maddison get the other 3 goals. Leicester tie the record for the biggest win in Premier League history and set the record for the biggest away win. in Premier League history. Thank you, Opta, for that stat. On Saturday, speaking of hat-tricks, Christian Pulisic got his first start in the Premier League since August 24th, 2 months earlier. And did he ever seize the opportunity away to Burnley with some gumption? My God, Pulisic with a 10 out of 10 performance in my books, his first hat-trick in his career. In fact, he said since it was his first ever hat-trick, he nearly forgot to grab the match ball. That makes for 7 wins on the trot for Chelsea, and the good vibes there continue. Compare that to what's going on at Arsenal, night and day, man. The belief behind this young team, the air at Chelsea is rarefied. Manchester City ran out to a routine 3-0 win at home against Aston Villa. Someone finally stopped Villa on their 3-match unbeaten run. The only bad news for City from this match, Fernandinho got himself sent off, and despite John Stones returning, they're still a little thin in the center-back department. But Sterling scored yet again, his 6th goal in his last 4 matches. Everton. Marco Silva and the boys continue to flounder. Just when you thought things had turned around with their victory last week, they go ahead and lose away to Brighton thanks to a last-minute own goal. I mean, it likely would have been converted either way, but still, Marco Silva will be the next manager to get the sack. I'm almost sure of it. I am fully convinced that he is a fraud at this point. There's no going back for me. I think we have enough evidence, though. No? 10 points from 10 matches, 1 win and 4 losses in their last 5 games. They face Watford in the League Cup midweek, and you get the vibe that if they were to lose that match, then he'll be gone. Hell, even if they win that and then lose to Tottenham on the weekend, thus falling further and further in the table, then it's going to be bye-bye Marco Silva. He's at a point in his season where he basically has to stop losing completely, or else he's going to lose his job. So, standings. Liverpool still unbeaten as they face Aston Villa, and then it's the big one. Liverpool versus Manchester City. Currently, City are 6 points behind Liverpool. Leicester in 3rd, level on points with Chelsea. Arsenal just 1 point ahead of Palace there. Damn. Hodgson raining down blessings on that Palace side. And look, United break into the top 10 while Spurs drop out of it. All right, guys. I'm out of here to spam some 1-star ratings for Uber Eats in the Play Store. I'm joking. Nothing against Uber Eats, really. Thanks for watching. I'll have a very scary video coming out for you guys tomorrow. You know, Halloween vibes. But other than that, thank you for watching. I'm Adrian. I didn't sneeze in this episode. Let the record stand. Take care.